Ladies and gentlemen, they always say the first sentence of every speech or talk is the most daunting. So now that that is out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the WBBA BDC Cape Town 2025. I think that absolutely deserves a round of applause. Now, I am going to say the full name just for clarity and to ensure that I've got the right speed for my speech today. It is the World Broadband Association Broadband Development Congress, Cape Town 2025. Now, I'm going to share with you in just a few moments why I said that nice and slowly, but allow me to introduce myself to you. My name is Tracy Lang, and I am very excited to be your host this afternoon right here in Cape Town. Now, of course, a day like today means you get to meet or bump into a few old friends, and then you get to meet a few new friends. But what is great is that today is all about connection. So everyone will be making new friends today, right? I think that's what we should be working towards. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, the WBBA BDC CT 2025, if you say that 10 times fast, you become a Wi-Fi router. So please do not try that, ladies and gentlemen. I also just need to share that we want to ensure that everyone is included and kept on par as the afternoon progresses. So everything will be simultaneously interpreted into different languages. Now, I don't know if you have an interpretation device. Who does? Anyone have a device for interpretation? Just checking. Just if you do, or if you still need one, we still have a few to my right-hand side. But if you do have one, how you switch it on is you press the button on the top. Then there is a slider on the left for the volume. To the right, there's a button. You press it 1. Channel 1 is for English. Channel 2 for Chinese. I just want to check that everyone can understand that we are here in Cape Town. Done? Ready to go? I think we can continue from here. And just very quickly, please remember to return those devices by the end of the Congress. Now, just a very quick question. I know my fellow South Africans will know this childhood song or will remember this, or many others as well. Who remembers the song, Old MacDonald Had a Farm? Do you remember that song? Okay, now you know it goes like this. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Okay, now Old MacDonald's farm has been taken over by artificial intelligence. AI, A-I-O. I know, that is so bad, right? It is so bad. And I'm known for really, really bad jokes. So I promise to keep it going as fast as we possibly can so that you don't have to deal with many of my bad flow jokes. Now, speaking of AI, ladies and gentlemen, with the rise of AI applications, the intelligence changes how we live, produce, and work, which also significantly influences the broadband development. Facing the opportunities and challenges brought by it, global carriers and partners are upgrading the broadband construction to embrace the new business growth. Africa's broadband revolution is here, and this is the first ever WBBA BDC hosted by Openserve, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this gathering explores the major forces reshaping Africa's connectivity from government leadership to industry innovation. This forum brings together Africa's most influential decision makers to shape the continent's digital future. Now, today will be a day of insightful views and successful practices around that, and to discuss industry trends under the topic of accelerating Africa's digital leap with broadband and AI. So a big thank you in advance to each and every one of you for attending and each and every one of our speakers who are present here this afternoon. Now to kick off, let's welcome the Director General of World Broadband Association and CEO of TM Forum, Mr. Martin Creaner, to the stage.
I didn't think I'd have to compete with old MacDonald. So Ministers, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Martin Creaner. I'm the Director General of the World Broadband Association. I'm delighted to be here to welcome you all to our Broadband Development Congress, and what I hope to be the first of many that cover the entire continent of Africa and the broadband challenges here. This is my third visit to South Africa in the last 12 months, which first of all is a joy, but secondly it shows the importance that the WBBA places on the evolving market in South Africa, the leadership that's been shown in Africa right across the continent. As we all know, the World Broadband Association has been formed with the vision of encouraging excellent broadband for everyone, everywhere. And in the past, I suppose, the economic success of any nation has really come down to, have we got clean water? Do we have good roads? Do we have reliable electricity? But now broadband excellence is added to that list. It is the fourth key element for the economic prosperity of any nation. Broadband drives the next phase of industry in every nation, and if you don't have excellent broadband combined with AI, then you risk being left behind. It enables all the key generational infrastructure that drive the prosperity of a nation, such as ports or mines or airports or hospitals. It allows governments to interact with its citizens and also to drive efficiency and national security. And it also empowers all of our citizens, and it allows them to be educated, to be informed, and of course, to be entertained. Within the WBBA, our comprehensive set of industry surveys, you get two of them certainly in those bags at the front there, our Fibre Development Index, or Broadband and Cloud Development Index. They show a very strong correlation between a nation's broadband and cloud/AI efficiency and the GDP per capita. If you've invested well in broadband and cloud, then your GDP per capita is going to benefit from that. We run an annual survey called our Global Broadband and Cloud Development Index. We've just released a 2025 version of that. And it shows South Africa and Egypt perhaps leading the charge on this continent for both sophistication and broadband and cloud. But there's, as we all know, there's a long way to go to bring the rest of the continent up to that level. We've also looked closely at gigacities, and our gigacity program shows that cities that invest in gigabit broadband, we're going to talk a bit about that later on today, but cities that invest in gigabit broadband, and when I say cities, it can be anything from relatively small 50,000 person city up to the mega cities of this world. If you invest in broadband and you invest in gigabit broadband, you will attract inward investment. As I say, later today we're going to be recognizing some of the excellent gigacities that are either well established or beginning across the African continent. But in short, excellent broadband is no longer a nice to have. It is not optional. It is a prerequisite for the success of any nation. The World Broadband Association has about 200 member companies in about 60 or so different countries across the world. And it's become the preeminent global broadband industry association at a time when broadband, particularly fixed broadband, is shifting from maybe a background topic behind mobility to being the most important connectivity discussion nations can have in the world. We have a board of directors made up of 15 different leading companies from right across the world, including Openserve here in South Africa and Gamtel in Gambia, both of whom are generously sponsoring today's event, so many thanks to them for their leadership on that. And as an organization, our members all share the same sort of challenges. It doesn't matter whether you are a really sophisticated economy such as Singapore or in China or in Korea or across some of the countries across Europe, or whether you are not as developed as those nations in terms of your broadband offering, the same problems very often exist as you look across the world from country to country. And so our members work together in order to try and solve some of these problems of common interest. One of our collaboration activities is in the whole area of the broadband roadmap for the future. And it explores not just fiber. We're not just interested in fiber broadband, even though that is the leading technology for fixed broadband. But fixed wireless access in 4G and 5G plays a very important role. Satellite, low Earth orbit satellite, plays an increasingly important role in many countries across the world. And then, of course, there's the long tail of copper and cable and so on, and other technologies that also exist. So this roadmap not only looks at the advances that are being made and will be made over the coming decade in things like broadband speed, but really importantly also looks at what the services of the future are going to need in terms of reliability and availability, latency, and security. And when you can map what the future roadmap looks like to the future capabilities and demands of services, that's when you can start to really make the business case for investment. And business case for investment in broadband is a hugely important role within the WBBA. We have a team within the WBBA which we call our broadband advocacy team. And that's made up of companies from right across the world. And they're building something which we call the Broadband Investment Guidebook. In essence, what it is it identifies what the key characteristics that underpin the business case for successful broadband investment in countries, developed countries and developing countries right across the world. And we produce that global broadband investment guidebook. We've also produced 3 separate regional guidebooks, one focused on the US market, one focused on Europe, and one focused on Africa, which we released in partnership with the ATU earlier this year. Another key aspect of what the WBBA is working on is the architectures for the future, in particular, the architectures that underpin stable end-to-end networks for the future. There's no point in just having fast access speeds in the home. The whole backbone network and the network inside the data center where the services are being delivered from all need to be high quality so that you've got that reliability and availability that you demand. And other activities within the WBBA look at the hugely important topic of sustainability, of which COP30 is on in Brazil this week, and the importance of sustainability in both what broadband can bring to the sustainability argument and how broadband operators can be more sustainable. We have other activities in the area of customer premise networking and how to really advance customer premise networking, as well as activities in the whole area of AI, which pervades everything in the broadband world these days. And all of our members are free to participate in every one of these groups, and many, many, many of our members do. One other important aspect of the WBBA is really living up to being the trusted producer of facts and figures about the industry. Our Fibre Development Index ranks the 95 top countries around the world in terms of how sophisticated they are in terms of fibre, while our Broadband and Cloud Development Index, which I spoke about earlier, ranks these same countries, but in terms of how sophisticated our broadband is in partnership with our cloud capabilities in the country. And it's a very different list. Rolling out lots of fibre is of limited value if you're not also investing in your cloud and AI infrastructure. And those two need to go hand in hand. The WBBA, just like this event here, runs events right across the world. And this year we've run events in Europe, in China, in Latin America, and of course today here in Africa. And that is really important, first of all, to create an opportunity for important thought leaders to speak to each other, but also for us to learn what are the real challenges a particular market faces, rather than theorizing what the problems and the opportunities and challenges in a region are. Finally, the WBBA doesn't exist in isolation. We work really closely with the other leading industry organizations. As you heard from the start, I have previously been the president and CEO of the TM Forum. We work closely with de jure standards groups like the ITU and ETSI. We work really closely with industry organizations in specific industries like wireless, with the Wireless Broadband Alliance. And later on today, we're going to celebrate our existing relationship with SATA and also with ATU, and have signed a new liaison agreement with Digital Council Africa. So today we're going to hear from great speakers. We've got a really interesting group of speakers and panel sessions, which I know you will find really encouraging, interesting, and exciting. But we'll also learn about some of the unique challenges we're facing in this region, and then we can map those to what the WBBA does. So I hope you find this Broadband Development Congress interesting. I hope you find it successful. I'm absolutely determined to be back this year, next year, because we enjoy this, coming to this country so much. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A lot of focus on excellent broadband. I think we should change your title to Chief Excellence Officer, Mr. Martin Creaner. Thank you very, very much. Let's now move on to our host. Let's welcome to the stage Dr. Sunil Piyarlall, Executive for Network Architecture Modeling and Openserve. He has also held various leadership posts in Telecom over the past 28 years. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Tracy. The Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, Solly Malatsi, the Director General of the World Broadband Association, Mr. Martin Creaner, the Chief Executive Officer of the Southern African Telecommunications Association, Mr. Jacob Munodawafa, the Chairman of the Southern African Telecommunications Association, Mr. Selvi Kuzwayo, the Chief Executive Officer of the Digital Council of Africa, Juanita, the Telecom Group and Openserve leadership team, partners of this event, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you. All protocols observed, it is a privilege to welcome you to the first ever World Broadband Association Broadband Development Congress to be hosted by an African member, a moment that marks both global collaboration and local ambition. A warm welcome to our partners from the World Broadband Association, members of the African Telecommunications Union, members of the Southern African Telecommunications Association, members of the Digital Council of Africa, industry players, policymakers, regulators, and distinguished delegates from across the world. A special acknowledgement to the chairperson of the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, Mr. Motibi Ramusi. This Congress is taking place at a defining moment for Africa's digital economy. As broadband leaders, we are not just talking about faster connections, we are talking about empowerment, we're talking about inclusion, and we're talking about transformation. Broadband is at the heart of modern economies. It enables education, innovation, entrepreneurship, and digital transformation. For South Africa and for the continent, the discussion is not simply about access. It is about equality, it is about resilience, and it's about equitable reach. At Openserve, we see ourselves both as a leading fiber network operator and a nation builder. Our purpose has always been clear: to connect every South African home, business, and community with world-class broadband. We have spent the past few years reimagining what fiber connectivity means, not just as infrastructure, but as an essential service that underpins social and economic progress. Through innovation solutions like fiber to the room, we are shaping the next frontier of home and business connectivity: seamless, intelligent, and future-proof. Fiber to the room represents what's possible when technology evolution meets local aspirations. Africa's digital story is one of immense potential and accelerating change. We are witnessing the rise of smart cities, cloud economies, fintech innovation, and AI-driven industries, all of which rely on robust broadband foundations. But we must also confront the broadband divide, the reality that millions of Africans remain unconnected and underconnected. Bridging that divide demands collaboration, not competition, policy alignment, not fragmentation, and shared infrastructure, not silos. As we gather here today, let's be intentional about ensuring that broadband growth becomes a catalyst for inclusive prosperity across the continent. This Congress is a testament to the power of partnership. This collaboration underscores how public-private cooperation can drive digital transformation at scale. Broadband development is not just a telecoms conversation. It's about education, about healthcare, about trade, about agriculture, and innovation ecosystems. The only way to deliver real progress is through shared vision and joint accountability across government, across regulators, and across industry players. As we expand broadband infrastructure, we must also think about sustainability. How do we connect more people without leaving a heavy carbon footprint? At Openserve, we are embedding energy-efficient technologies, green network design, and community-centric deployment models into everything we do. Broadband should not only connect the next generation, it should also protect their future. Connectivity alone is not enough. We need the skills, the talent, digital confidence to make the most of it. This means investing in science, technology, engineering and mathematics education, entrepreneurship, and digital upskilling, particularly for the young people and for women. Every fiber connection we deploy is an opportunity to unlock human potential. Let us make broadband development not just a technical goal, but a human mission. South Africa stands at the crossroads of Africa's digital transformation. With one of the most advanced fiber networks on the continent, we have both the responsibility and the opportunity to lead. Openserve is proud to be part of that leadership story, investing in innovation, access, and affordability, and collaborating with partners and the World Broadband Association to shape Africa's digital destiny. Together, we can position South Africa as a gateway to a more connected Africa. As the WBBA Broadband Development Congress begins, I urge us all to think boldly and to act collectively. Let us challenge ourselves not just to connect devices, but to connect lives. Not just to build networks, but to build trust and to build opportunity. The conversations we have here in Cape Town can define the next decade of digital growth on our continent. Let us ensure that they result in commitments and measurable actions. In closing, I want to thank the World Broadband Association and partners who made this historic event possible. I'm really honored that Openserve could play a role in this conversation. May this Congress be the beginning of stronger connections between nations, industries, and people. Let us connect Africa's future together. Thank you.
Dr. Piyarlall. Now let's delve into the part part to hear from telecommunications regulators and organizations about their views in Africa's connectivity. Minister Solly Malatsi, South African Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. Minister Malatsi's career in public service is marked by his exceptional ability to guide and implement communication strategies across multiple government levels, ensuring effective message delivery and organizational cohesion. Let's welcome Minister Solly Malatsi.
Good afternoon to the leadership of the World Broadband Association, the leadership of the Southern African Telecommunications Association, and all the distinguished guests who are here. I hope I've stood on the right protocol. It's a privilege for me to join you today to address you at this World Broadband Association Development Conference. And we gather here at a time where Africa's digital leap with broadband and AI is a topic that carries both urgency and promise. It is a challenge and an opportunity that if we seize very well, we could redefine the trajectory of development across the continent. For far too long, Africa's story has been one of catch-up in healthcare, in education, in finance, and even in governance. The Global North built its institutions slowly, layer by layer, investing in roads and other fiscal infrastructure before taking the leap towards digitization much later. We don't need to copy that path. We can leapfrog. Broadband gives us that reach at a fraction of yesterday's cost, and AI gives us the scale, turning data and access into real-world services. And when we combine these two, we can skip the steps that others have had to take. We can compress time and ultimately do more with less. We are already seeing the examples of this on the continent in healthcare, in education, and even in finance. In Nigeria, for instance, a mother with a basic smartphone can message Help Mom on WhatsApp. Two AI companions, MamaBot and VexBot, answer in plain language, send vaccination reminders, flag risks, and route her to a nearby clinic when needed. Across Nigeria last year, over 90,000 mothers and caregivers have used these chatbots, proof that when broadband meets AI, we can replace distance with access and fast-track delivery where it's needed the most. And these solutions are not just limited there. In Kenya, for example, its DigiSchool connectivity project, supported by UNESCO, has connected thousands of learners, many in rural areas and underserved communities, to smart classrooms, connecting a teacher in a rural area to deliver the same quality content to urban areas. These solutions show that with AI, that educational content can adapt to a learner's pace and their language. And here in South Africa, we've seen in the informal sector how a spaza shop owner with no formal credit history can open through the use of the MTN Momo app and apply for a quick loan. AI scores eligibility from everyday mobile patterns, from airtime to top-ups, wallet transfers, and repayment behavior, and a decision arrives within minutes. What all of these examples showcase is the power of broadband to provide access, and what AI does to convert that access into impact and opportunity. And as a continent, we must stay focused on the fundamentals that can help enable both broadband and AI to work together to drive inclusion, productivity, and growth. The first fundamental we must invest in is definitely broadband. Universal meaningful connectivity is the foundation of an inclusive digital economy. In today's world, we all recognize that connectivity is not just a luxury. It is a prerequisite for learning, for working, for innovating, and growing. Yet the gap remains large. 2.6 billion people are still offline globally. And where 3G and 4G exist, many still don't connect because data and devices are too often too costly, or the services don't seem useful. Here at home, approximately 13 to 14 million South Africans remain offline. And our job is to close that gap and make every connection affordable, reliable, and worth using. And that is why we've focused a large part of our G20 presidency in the Digital Economy Working Group to advance three basic values: affordability, affordable connectivity so that we can get more South Africans online and to keep them online; open, secure digital public infrastructure so that useful services are available on the day; and responsible AI that people can trust. And when these three align, countries can shift coverage into real use. We are equally migrating government services to a zero-rated platform so that cost can never block access to basic healthcare or something as basic as a license renewal, learning support, or access to small-scale finance funding. This is also key to our national growth agenda. Affordable connectivity expands markets, it unlocks productivity, and creates bigger markets for entrepreneurs to access. And when we bring marginalized communities online, we fuel a virtuous cycle of more users, more innovation, more entrepreneurship, and more consumption that drives the economy. And while broadband is the backbone of this growth agenda, AI is the driver that can drive access into impact. But for AI to work for Africa, it must work in our languages, on our data sets, for all our lives. So our stance is quite simple. We need to develop responsible Africa-fit AI. We must build the models that reflect our realities by supporting researchers and startups with the data sets and compute they need. We must respect our culture and the creators in our communities so that our partners and sources are not mined. We must modernize data governance so that privacy, safety, and non-discrimination can sit alongside useful data sharing for health, agriculture, and municipal services. And we must scale this infrastructure to ensure that we don't leave anyone behind. We must also leverage one of Africa's greatest strengths, which is our scale. AI becomes affordable and useful at scale, in data and in the distribution, so that we can reduce the cost amongst each other. It allows shared data sets that reflect our realities. It encourages standards that reduce fragmentation and creates a continental market large enough to justify investments in local compute, local talent, and locally relevant products. This is how we can make AI to serve development. And when we do this, broadband provides access, and AI converts that access into outcomes that people can feel and can uplift people out of their economic situation into a better prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Malatsi. Here's to turning access into impact. Next, let's welcome Liu Guiqing, Executive Director, President, and Chief Operating Officer of China Telecom, to deliver his speech. Welcome to the stage.
Distinguished Minister Sunil Malatsi, Secretary General Martin, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to gather with you in the beautiful Rainbow Nation. This is my first time here. South Africa, to attend the WBBA Cape Town Summit together. Today, I would like to share our perspective and commentation regarding China Telecom's practice and service in artificial intelligence. AI technology is developing rapidly, profoundly transforming home production and lifestyle, and then reshaping the global industrial landscape. The present challenge of our time is how to ensure that all AI in the beneficial, secure, and fair manner. To this end, we believe coordinated progress is needed across 4 dimensions. First, new information infrastructure is a foundation for inclusive AI development. The AI era demands high efficiency processing of massive data, faster training of complex models, and real-time responsiveness for applications. We must surpass the limits of traditional infrastructure and build cloud network integration system centered on intelligent computing and networks, characterized by elastic computing power and low latency. High reliability connectivity to make AI capabilities widely accessible. Second, scenario-driven application is key to scaling AI development. Application scenarios bridge AI technologies with industrial innovation. Fields such as government service, industrial manufacturing, and everyday life involve abundant data and a strong demand for enhancement. By aligning AI capabilities with real-world needs and tap into scenario-specific value, AI can continuously improve productivity and achieve scalable commercialization. Third, the government system must be strengthened to ensure AI develops for good, AI for good. As AI increasingly integrated into all sectors, new security and governance challenges emerge. Extended to ecosystem, data, ethic, and ideology. Only by building collaborative, multi-stakeholder governance system can AI development remain safe, reliable, and controllable. Fourth, a sustainable AI ecosystem relies on openness and win-win cooperation. Continuous innovation thrives in inclusive and mutually beneficial environment. Deep integration across industrial, academic, research, and application, among with synergy among an enterprise of all sizes, can stimulate innovation and drive technology breakthrough and widespread adoption. China Telecom is for embracing artificial intelligence and advanced its strategic transformation towards cloudification, data intelligence, and smart enablement. We aim to serve as a major provider of intelligent computing power, a leader in general-purpose large models, a co-developer of industrial large models, a provider of intelligent product and service for all, and a guardian of AI security, supporting the digital intelligent transformation of society and the economy. Our efforts focus on three aspects: building cloud network integrated infrastructure with our 5-in-1 Xirang intelligent cloud service system. At the infrastructure layer, we have established a collaborative network covering cloud, edge, and device. At the master layer, China Telecom has independently developed the Chen large models, which covers semantic speech, voice, and text-to-video, and provides a full large model service. It ranks among the top in global evaluations, and we have openly shared its source code for free worldwide. Additionally, our unified mass platform integrated international mainstream models to offer one-stop support for customer needs. Constructing a smart security shield for trusted AI. Leveraging our cloud network strengths, we have built an end-to-end defense system covering device, edge, network, cloud, and data. We have developed AI security tools, including model guardian rules and a security scanner, ensuring all AI applications run safely and steadily. China Telecom maintains an open attitude and cooperates with global partners to turn lab innovation into practical AI tools. In Africa, we have a strong presence and partner with local carriers to build submarine fiber networks and high-speed cross-border links. This enhances regional connectivity and computing power, making AI more accessible across Africa. President Xi Jinping has proposed raising the overall position of China-Africa relations to an all-weather community such as a shared future. Africa is one of the world's most permission digital markets and a strategic region for China Telecom. To jointly promote Africa's digital transformation, I propose these three initiatives. First, leverage WBBA to strengthen inclusive digital foundation. Expand intelligent broadband infrastructure and accelerate model use case in key sectors to ensure digital benefits reach more people. Second, work with WBBA to establish robust AI security framework that align with local needs, jointly develop advanced defense technologies, and create security solutions. Third, collaborative with WBBA to cultivate industrial ecosystem, strengthen talent development, build joint labs and innovation centers, and accelerate the conversion of scientific advancement into real productivity. As the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. China Telecom is committed to being a partner, enabler, and innovator in Africa's digital transformation. Let us use AI as the brand and cloud network broadband as a bridge to write a new chapter in China-Africa digital cooperation together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Guiqing. Using AI for good. Now let's welcome Mr. Bob Chen, President of Huawei Optical Business Product Line, to deliver his speech. Welcome to the stage.
Okay, Honorable Minister Sunil Malatsi, Mr. Martin Creaner. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my great honor to be here at this forum. Today, I'd like to share with you, in the AI era, how to accelerate the development of the fiber broadband and better support the digital development of Africa. You know, currently, AI is rapidly developing. Many regions and countries around the world are increasing investment in computing power. Compared to the 2023, the computing power in 2024 grows by 74%. For example, only in China, there has been an increase of 1 million AI cards last year. At the same time, the ability of the AI big models is developing very fast. And the parameters of the big models have reached the training level. In addition, with the rapid development of apps, such as ChatGPT, global users of the generative AI has exceeded 1 billion. So we can see AI is changing production and life of people greatly. And AI terminals and applications are also booming, driving AI to every family. For the terminal, mobile phone and home devices, such as TVs, fridges, will have built-in computing power. For example, AI fridges can identify different food intelligently and guide the user to buy what they need. According to the forecast, by 2030, the penetration of a home service robot will reach 30%. For the application, AI is entering into family life, including elderly health care, children's safety protection, AI fitness, and so on. Home AI applications are fully boosting. No matter for traditional activity like web browsing and video streaming, or the new AI applications, they are all need high-quality home broadband network. Looking back the past 2 decades, operators went through 3 phases in the home broadband business. The first phase is focus on the fiber broadband coverage to quickly expand the users. The second phase is focus on the speed upgrading based on the optical fiber advantages. During these phases, ARPU keeps on growing. The third phase is focus on the experience improvement by home networking. It delivers high-quality Wi-Fi experience to users. And also, facing the AI era, many operators have launched home AI productions. For example, China Telecom's Xiaoyi intelligent agent not only enable real-time voice interaction with users, but also provide the smart services, such as travel ticket booking and children's learning companionship. So we believe that African operators can follow this path to continue promoting the development of home broadband. First, for fiber broadband coverage, we can see that African government and operators attach great importance to fiber broadband development. More than 20 countries have launched the broadband development plans and set clear coverage targets. For example, Kenya's Vision 2030 strategy points out by 2030, the penetration rate of the fiber broadband will reach 70%. At the same time, operators in many countries also release the fiber coverage plans. By 2028, MTN plans to provide the fiber connections to 8 million Nigeria families. Under the joint effort of the governments and operators, Africa's fiber broadband coverage has increased greatly over the past 3 years. According to the Omedia's report, the fiber broadband coverage in many African countries has doubled in the past 3 years. Of course, compared with other regions, Africa still has some room for improvement in fiber broadband connectivity. Up to now, over 200 million families in Africa have no fiber connection. And the fiber broadband coverage is unbalanced. For example, in South Africa, Kenya, and Egypt, coverage in capitals and major cities is over 80%, while in other regions, it's just only 3%. Fiber broadband has always been a key engine for national economical development. Every 10% release in fiber broadband penetration will bring 1% GDP growth. Meanwhile, with the continuous technical innovation, the cost of the fiber broadband development continues to decrease, and the ROI has been shortening from the 5 years to 2 years. Therefore, we believe that it is very important for accelerated fiber broadband coverage and expanding the users quickly in Africa. Bandwidth is a variable index of the home broadband. By upgrading the home broadband speed, operators can keep on increasing ARPU. We can see that over the past 3 years, the average speed of the home broadband in many African countries has increased a lot. For example, home broadband speed in Morocco and Algeria has doubled. Many operators have launched the ultra-high-speed home broadband plans, such as 500 Mbps, even 1,000 Mbps. According to Omedia, the CAGR of fiber broadband revenue is 19% in Africa over past 3 years. And it will keep a high growth in the next 5 years. Broadband speed is improving fast, but we can see speed in many countries is still below 15 Mbps. As we know, Starlink has launched a broadband package in 18 African countries, offering download speed up to 150 Mbps, and quickly gaining 500,000 users. So our suggestion for operations with existing fiber coverage is fiber to the home, 200 Mbps beyond. In fact, upgrading to 200 Mbps from 50 Mbps just increase 5% investment, because the ODN network taking up 19% of the total investment is already ready. And for high-value regions, they could upgrade it to Gbps to keep the increase ARPU. Taking Telecom as an example, compared to the 100 Mbps package, the ARPU of the Gbps package has increased more than 70%. With the development of HD video and smart home services, more and more users choose home networking solutions to ensure Wi-Fi experience. Data show that home networking market in Africa is around 9 million households. But the operator's market share is less than 5%. Therefore, we suggest that the operations can develop a home network package greatly to take up the market and increase the ARPU. Operators can use FTTR or Wi-Fi mesh solution to design flexible packages. FTTR ensures the Wi-Fi experience anytime and anywhere at home, while Wi-Fi mesh provides the basic Wi-Fi coverage without deploying the fiber in every room. And in above, we talked about how to enhance the network ability. But facing the AI era, operator can also explore smart home services. We believe that it can be promoted in the 3 phases. The first, operator can introduce the new types of terminals to develop local smart applications, such as 2D to 3D conversion and Wi-Fi sensing. The second, operators can build in their own AI agent to provide the basic AI applications, such as network management. The third, fully upgrade the cloud, intelligence, network, and terminal abilities, and collaborate with the partners to deliver all kinds of the smart applications. Huawei has been deeply rooted in Africa for over 20 years. Through the innovative solutions, efficient supply and delivery, and ICT talent development, we have enabled the development of Africa home broadband. Ladies and gentlemen, facing the AI era, let's work together to accelerate fiber broadband coverage and speed upgrades, deliver the best network experience and smart applications to users, and enable Africa digital leap. Thank you for your listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, for sharing. Another round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as you've stated, Huawei has always been deeply rooted in Africa with innovative solutions, efficient supply and delivery, and of course also the ICT talent development. The next person to join us on stage is Huawei consultant Mr. Deepak Junnarkar to give us a short introduction of the Southern Africa FTTH Design and Skill Capability Center launch. A round of applause, please.
Dear distinguished delegates, it's a proud moment for us as we would like to launch a Southern Africa FTTX Planning and Design Service Center. This is to accelerate the fiber industry leap to power the Africa's new intelligence AI era. With the support of Huawei's expert engineering teams and also the rich experience, we have developed 20+ scenario-based solutions. And we have capability where we actually can have digital surveys and digital maps, which can improve the efficiency by 20%. And we have ISDP platform, which is like going to help operators for end-to-end delivery process, which is visible and manageable. So we would like to launch this to accelerate the fiber industry. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Gary Liu, President of Sub-Saharan Africa Career Sales Department from Huawei. Thank you. Dr. Sunil Piyarlall, Executive Network Architecture and Modeling, Openserve Board Member of WBBA. Mr. Moremi Marwa, Director General of TTCL. Mr. David Lee, Vice President of Sub-Sahara Africa, Region Delivery and Service. Mr. Martin Kramer, Director General of WBBA. And again, I would like to request Mr. Bob Chen, President of Optical Business Product Line in Huawei. Please come over. Mrs. Juanita Clark, CEO of Digital Council Africa. Yeah. And Mr. Austin Yu, President of Career Delivery and Service from Huawei. And he's also Vice President of Global Technical Service Department in Huawei. I would like to welcome all the guests. Thank you. Would you like to come here?
Shall we proceed? Because I see Mrs. Juanita Clark. We will proceed. I'm going to ask that each and every one of you please put your hands on the lampposts. And then I'm going to ask each and every one of us present to join the countdown. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I officially announce the Southern Africa FTTH Design and Skill Capability Center has successfully launched. Congratulations. Gentlemen, can we ask that we please take a group photo of all of you behind your podiums, please? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Creaner, could you please stay on stage for us for just a few moments? Because we would now like to move on to the next part of the session, which is to sign the MOU. We are, however, just waiting a few moments for Mrs. Juanita Clark, because what this is, they will be signing the MOU between the WBBA and the DCA for their shared commitment to supporting and advancing both parties' membership communities. Mr. Martin Creaner, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned in my opening address, the WBBA realizes it does not stand alone in the global community, and in particular in Africa. We've got relationships, existing relationships with ATU and with SATA, who we'll hear from later on today. But the other key element is building a relationship with DCA. And so we're delighted to have the opportunity to work with Juanita and the team in DCA so that we can identify what are the appropriate areas for WBBA and DCA to collaborate in to improve broadband right across the continent of Africa. Do we have, and here's Juanita, I see.
Juanita? Thank you. You may make your way to the stage. I love that. Bright and breezy. You will now sign the MOU. I think that deserves a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. You may take your seats, Mr. Creaner and Mrs. Clark. Thank you very, very much. We will now move on to our keynote address. Mr. Jacob Munodawafa, CEO of Southern African Telecommunications Association, will now be taking to the stage. Let's please welcome him with a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to apologize because when we flew from Mozambique to Cape Town, the pilot said the flight is too full. So he decided to leave our luggage behind because otherwise we're going to remain there and the plane comes with luggage only. So he said, okay, please take us, the bags can remain. So allow me to present without wearing a suit. Our Honorable Minister, I think has gone out. Martin Creaner, WBBA DG, the Chairman of SATA, Selby, sitting in front here, members of SATA, our leaders from various countries, China Mobile, Huawei, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Jacob. I think my surname is too long, so just call me Jacob. Allow me to present the findings of our study, telling the story of the state of AI adoption and implementation in Southern Africa. We have heard from various speakers talk about AI, and this story tells us what's happening within Southern Africa. And firstly, I thank WBBA, BDC 2025, allowing us to come and share this interesting report. And the report presents the perspectives and experiences of the professionals. It's not a company position as such, but these are respondents from our member organizations. And the results are from the 16 countries of Southern Africa. And based on the responses, which came from all the members of SATA and our partners, what came out of the study is that it shows that the sector is active in terms of implementing AI-enabled solutions. And also, despite the findings depicting disparities across the various countries, but it shows an active transition towards AI-enabled operations in our various businesses for our members. And the survey demonstrates that a substantial majority of telecommunications operators are either actively deploying AI or currently assessing some of the solutions which can fit within their respective business models. And what came out highly featuring is product development, customer service, and operational functions. They emerged primarily from the study in terms of AI integration, reflecting strategic priorities by the various members of SATA in Southern Africa. And also the increasing efficiency represent the most frequently cited primary goal of AI projects, followed closely by customer experience and driving innovation. However, the participants highlighted some of the challenges, which include the lack of expertise, and also from the findings, 70% of the respondents highlighted this as a big challenge, followed by integration challenges within the existing legacy systems. So at the moment, most of the integration of AI solutions, we are integrating them as post or after in our investments. So there's a challenge when you bring in new solutions to existing legacy systems. And also high implementation cost is one of the challenges which was highlighted by the respondents. Data privacy also came out as an issue because you need to train some of the language models. You need to feed them with local information. Otherwise, the language models will give you maybe say wrong decisions. So despite these challenges, some of the respondents highlighted that they were satisfied in terms of what the AI solutions are providing their organizations. And also, similarly, cost reduction impacts appear, I think, across all the various organizations where they reported that they are managing to reduce operational costs and also improving the revenues. So as I said, skills or capacity building is an issue which came out, which we need to address, I think, together as an industry, working together with our various partners, WBBA, with our leading organizations. Thank you to China Telecom, I think for that strategic intervention to help Africa in terms of driving our continental digital transformation. And most respondents indicate somewhat familiar or very familiar levels with AI technologies. And however, the skills rating cluster among around beginner and proficient levels, suggesting substantial room for advanced capability development, which we need to address as an industry. And looking forward, respondents emphasize the need for regional focus on customer experience, enhancement, network optimization, network automation, and also using AI for predictive analysis and fraud detection. One of the challenges, I think, which affects our industry is fraud. So they highlighted in terms of the responses that I think AI will help us address this challenge of fraud management in our networks. And also, what came out strong also is the issue of advocacy for training programs, public-private partnerships, and accessible solutions tailored to regional context, because investing in large language models is expensive. And what we are encouraging all our colleagues, our partners, our members is that let's look at small language models. I was chatting with Martin a while ago before we started, says, I think as we look at specific solutions for a specific application, let's not look very huge, in terms of the language model. Well, some of the models are looking at about 7 billion, 12 billion parameters. You don't need that for a simple agentic solution. Let's look at something like 1 billion, 3 billion parameters. And that would be very, in terms of cost, that would be, not very high. Even in terms of integration deployment, it's minimal. So we'll work hard together with our various partners to make sure that we support our industry, our members in deploying affordable solutions to help drive the AI transformation. And the findings underscore both the transformative potential and the substantial capacity build requirements for AI adoption across the world region. And from our findings, this is replicates, I think, across Africa. Because in terms of the business, we are all running similar solutions, and also the environment is the same across Africa. So the strategic investments in infrastructure, skills development, ethical governance frameworks, and regional collaboration are essential during this transition to AI-enabled environment, and AI-enabled environment. And post the survey, as a regional association, we are now working, together with our members to see the issues, the gaps which were highlighted, so that we can bridge them. And one of the latest program which we have embarked on is how do we bridge the skills gaps? How do we make sure that the professionals, the experts in our industry, they get to understand exactly what is AI? Because if you go onto the internet, you start accessing AI solutions. Sometimes you have to pay, and it's expensive. So what we have done is we developed a toolkit, a very simple toolkit, where we are encouraging all our experts, our members, to download something called GPT for All, or Olama. Then Olama allows you to run it on a local machine, a laptop or a desktop. And then once you have installed all those tools, you can now download all the languages, from Olama to DeepSeek, all the various language models. And then you can start now playing around with language models on your laptop. And instead of accessing the AI tools or solutions remotely to a data center somewhere, sitting somewhere in the world, no, we decided to develop this toolkit and to support our skills development in the region. And also, we, as I said, we are encouraging all our members, our investors in our region who are deploying solutions to look at small language models, which allows you to train the AI tools with the right information. And in terms of the future outlook, is that I think AI, I think we've heard from the various speakers before me, is that the future looks bright. I know people have been skeptical about job losses, but AI is a tool. It's like a computer. I remember when I went to university, my first degree, we didn't have computers those days. We had to go to a computer center, use the mainframes to learn our programming. But now technology evolved. Now everyone can buy a laptop. You can buy the latest smartphone, which allows you to use the latest technology. So AI is not about job losses. AI is about improving efficiency. It's a tool which we all need. Yeah. So we are also working very closely with our other stakeholders to advocate that let's look at AI. What are the potential solutions, the potential impact which it can bring to our communities, to our countries. So these are some of the findings which I wanted to share during this Congress. So if there's any question, any issues about specific outcomes, I'm here. We can chat as we network during this Congress. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Mr. Munodawafa. There we go. I got it just right. Mr. Munodawafa, or like he says, just Jacob. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to head and move on to Mrs. Juanita Clark, CEO of Digital Council Africa. Now, Mrs. Clark has been listed as one of the top 100 most influential women in the technology sector. Let's welcome her.
It's me, many years ago, but I keep it up there for obvious reasons. Thank you so much, Openserve, for the invitation, Huawei. It's so great to be back on the stage. I think this is the fourth year now that the Digital Council has the privilege of spending the afternoon on day 0 of Africa Tech Festival with all of you. What a day. I had a first today. I missed my flight this morning. So I had a small nervous breakdown in Joburg International Airport. And I was, but here I am, nonetheless. And I had to pick up keys because I couldn't later. And then I locked my bag inside. It's been a day. It's been a day, but it's a real privilege to be with you. It's great to see some familiar faces, people from all over the continent, people that we have partnered with over many years. Colleagues, I want to, good to see you as well, Jacob, great, it's been a moment. So Jacob, that was, it's a really great presentation, and I think everybody's talking about AI right now. It's this big monster. We're considering how we approach it, and it's a very valid conversation. But those of you that know me also know that I'm going to go back to leave no one behind. And in order for us to move forward as a continent, we have to make sure that we connect every single person on this continent. And we've got to find mechanisms and ways of doing that. That means that we've got to revisit our deployment methodologies. We've got to consider the way that we do things. There's still a monster amount of education that needs to be done at governmental level to educate them on the benefits of broadband and how we can take that to everybody. And we're making phenomenal progress, but to some extent, this gap is widening. We're already talking about AI, and at the same time, we are still also trying to find ways of connecting every single person on this continent and taking them with us on this journey. We are concerned about, job losses. There's a lot of people talking about it, but we also know that all the industrial revolutions that have, that was before this one, have been a net creator of jobs. So if we approach this right, then I think, we stand to make a lot of progress as a continent. But we have to make sure that we take everybody on this journey, and we have to make sure that we provide every single person with a reliable, good connection. And I sometimes know I get up government's backs when I say this, but free Wi-Fi is not the answer. We need in-home connectivity, because that's where people start harnessing the power of infrastructure and the digital economy. So the gogo down the street cannot sit at 11 o'clock at night and do her internet banking under a free Wi-Fi hotspot. We've got to find ways of taking these connections into every single household. I'm not saying that Wi-Fi hotspots are not important. Of course they are. We all, I suppose, walked in here today and looked for the, for the password, but it's not the answer to Africa's problems. The answer is making sure that every single person is connected. I want to share just a couple of statistics with you. If I break this thing, I'm out the door first. In order for us to understand where we are and what it is that we need to do, I just want to quickly spend some time on some numbers. And it's very busy, there's a lot of stuff, and I'm going to toggle between some slides, but I want us to just have a quick look at where we are globally. So, a lot of information, I know, but really you can pick anything. So if you've got a notepad and pen in front of you, I'd like you to make a note. Let's look at OTT and social media. Over here. That's the global amount of apps that's currently available. Then let's look at, here's one that's important to all of us. Data centers and towers, co-location data centers. So this is globally now. So we're looking at global numbers. 10,800 co-location, colo data centers in 170 countries. So I'm going to just skip forward to a couple of slides because I want to show you Africa. So who wrote down the OTT and the apps? Anybody got a number that made a note? In comparison, 1.1 billion apps downloaded in 2024 in sub-Saharan Africa versus, who's got the number? So there's some way to go. Co-location data centers, who remembers the previous number? 10,800, sub-Saharan Africa? So there's a substantial amount of work that we still need to do. And the advantage is that we've got access to all the resources to ensure that we close this gap. So I always say to people go like, oh, there's like, this gap is so big. Is Africa ever going to get there? We have to remember, and this is the next note that you can make, the digital gap is the digital opportunity. So for those of you who are chasing numbers, that's actually our opportunity. But finding mechanisms to close these gaps are critically important. So governments in Africa sit on so much land. We need to come up with ways of making reliable, secure land available for people. We've got to deal with things like construction mafia. Colleagues, why are we 15 years later talking about these things? That's a problem across sub-Saharan Africa. We've got to find approvals and make approvals easier and get these bylaws implemented by our government so that we can deploy faster and better to reach people, less expensive. So there's a tremendous amount of things that we can do. Power and having a future vision for power on the continent is absolutely critical. So the things that are going to hold us back as a continent when we look at data center construction is reliable power, reliable energy. So currently we're using, what's the number now, about 2.5, 2.5 gigawatts of energy. We're expecting that to double in 5 years. In the next 5 years. But the things that are going to hold us back as a continent is things like reliable energy, access to skills. We have to make sure that we start training our people and that we develop the right skills to be employed and to be taken into the companies that's going to build the next generation of telecommunications infrastructure. So I'm not going to, there's a lot of information here, and very happy to share that with you. This is just a basic comparison between where we are as a continent and versus the rest of the world, and what that gap looks like and how we can solve for that gap. But finding the right policies and putting them in place, getting an effective AI policy in place, ensuring data sovereignty, having these conversations in platforms such as these is critically important if we're going to move this needle forward. But one thing I have to point out, and that I have to, Chairman, I have to say, you've been such a fantastic participant in this sector, and you always open door, always willing to listen. And I really think that as a country, we're on the right track. You know, I think that we are making all the right moves, all the right things. And Chairman, just a shout out to you as well for the work that ICASA does, and you know, the amount of movement that we're currently seeing in. But we've got to scale this. There's companies, I see some of my colleagues from Mauritius here, 97% penetration in the island. And I always wonder, like, how do you get that right? But it's political will. If we don't have the political will to make it happen with government backing strategies, then we're going to struggle to move forward. So the right policy environment, and for a lot of technical people in the room, you know, their eyes flip backwards when you start talking about policies, because that's not what people want to hear. But your policy environment is the foundation, absolute bare minimum that helps you to create a sustainable sector and to move that sector forward. So please, Andile, you're welcome to share these slides. Alex, thank you very much. They are free to anybody that wants them. Distribute them to the colleagues. There's a lot of very interesting information in these slides, which I think you might have death by PowerPoint this afternoon. But yeah, colleagues, I wish you a wonderful rest of the afternoon and of course, a wonderful rest of the week. I hope you've got your energy pills. About to be a very little sleep going forward. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mrs. Juanita Clark. Loved that. Just very quickly, she mentioned earlier on that she locked the keys inside the house and you couldn't get in. You know, they say if that ever happens and you can't get the lock open, you must always speak to it calmly because communication is key. Oh, Martin, you loved that. I could see it. I felt it. Ladies and gentlemen, next let's welcome Ms. Darya Nasr, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Business Development and Government Affairs, Ookla. She has held impact roles at NASA and IBM. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to hopefully use this well. It's really a pleasure to be here, distinguished guest, participant, all protocols observed. Thank you, Sunil, for the invitation. I'm Darya Nasr. I represent Ookla. I'm truly honored to be part of this list of distinguished panelists and presenters that have come before me. And I'm going to pick up on several of the things that you mentioned, Juanita. I love what you said about no one left behind. I guess what we represent at Ookla is the data behind how do you know who, where, when you've left behind. And so in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you how our partners, the operators, the policymakers will be using the data insight that we provide at Ookla so that they are driving better, faster, more inclusive broadband development. One of the things that is obvious is that the digital penetration is accelerating faster in Africa than any other region. And that means that there is a boost in economic growth, in personal growth, in citizens' growth. Today, one out of 6 person in the world that use the internet is in Africa. Earlier today, we heard from the Secretary of Urban Development of Kenya how the number of Kenyans that are using the internet is higher. Actually, in Juanita's slides, I noticed that while the number of data centers and everything is higher in other regions than in Africa, one interesting note was that in the rest of the world, the number of people using the internet is 6 hours per day, whereas here in Africa is over 9 hours per day. So that means that we need to be at the forefront of what our citizens require. I'm originally from Iran. I live between France and Washington, D.C., but I have to tell you, for those of you who know me, my heart is in Africa. So I have personally invested my time, and I am grateful to be in this region. So let's start with where we are. So globally, operators are racing to deliver higher speed broadband, and Africa is part of this history. We heard again earlier today, connectivity is becoming a right. So we've heard in the past connectivity is needed, is a necessity, is a utility. But now in one of the presentations earlier today, we heard it's a right. And I believe that. It is true. It is a right and the bedrock of much of what we can accomplish. We've seen countries like Kenya with Safaricom. We've seen South Africa with MTN Group, not just in South Africa, but across the continent. Algeria with Algeria Telecom, Tunisia. They all have invested in fiber and fixed wireless and backbone upgrades. We are seeing through Ookla's speed test global index how African markets are making consistent progress, with several nations climbing the global ranking, which I will show you in a bit. For those of you who know Ookla, you will know that we have a global index that ranks every country in terms of their connectivity speed. Now, what you're seeing on this slide, and again, I will show you some snippets of data that you can then later on go on our some of the reference documents that I will share with you. And of course, these slides are available to whoever would like to have them, and will be I'll be here and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But you will see in Q1 2024 versus Q3 2024, based on the investment made, we are seeing several countries pulling up their numbers. We've seen Algeria go from 70 to 400 megabit per second. We're seeing Mauritania go from 42 to 93, Sudan from 43 to 260. These are still, there's a lot of progress, agreed, but it is making progress nevertheless. And South Africa is steadying, keeping steady, but moving in the right direction. Now, speed matters because the user experience matters, how they are able to use the applications and how they would adopt new applications would also make a difference on the innovation, and the innovation makes a difference on investments that are made. So I just pulled here for you some basic information that when I joined Ookla kind of blew my mind. But in terms of the amount of data that we gather to be able to build these benchmarks. So you will see 11 million tests daily. We collect billions of daily sample on our quality of experience. We have, I think this number is outdated, we're close to 17,000 servers worldwide that collect in every country. We have 100% coverage in every world country, so we have an index for every one of the member countries, and we have over 60 billion tests today. So faster broadband doesn't just retain users, it expands the total addressable market by enabling remote work, digital education, small business connectivity, and all the things that we heard this earlier today. Now, all of this, to sustain performance and growth, there are three technical pillars that are essential. Fiber expansion, Wi-Fi upgrades, moving from Wi-Fi 6 to 7 to close the gap, as we talked about earlier, and fixed broadband quality of service systems. Now, operators can use the Ookla KPIs to look at the download, upload, the latency to target what investment they want to make and how to monitor the impact. And what I've done here again is taken a snapshot looking at Gaborone in Botswana to look at the right services that drive the quality of service, which is, your usual jitter, upload, download, latency, and the actual services, video conferencing, WhatsApp, etc. What's interesting in this slide, and I've becoming a fan of maps and these kinds of dashboards because it's mind-boggling what you can see out of the insights. But you will notice that on the left box here, the speed's getting better, and so you say, that's great, we love that. However, if you look on the right side, the total time for video upload is not so fast. So one element is never enough, and part of the power of what Ookla brings to the table in terms of its data, its unbiased data, is the ability to dig further and see really where are the areas of problem, where is the investment requirement, where can you actually improve the services by looking at the specific data that is problematic. So I talked earlier about our ranking. The ranking changes all the time. If you want to look at it, it's kind of fun. I did it. I was surprised at who came in now. Who would know who's ranked #1 in the world without looking at your speed test? Who would guess who it is? Yes, ma'am, the UAE. So I was surprised, but there you have it. So you can go in and take a look at it. It's broadband acceleration, I would say, is not solely a commercial mission, it's a national development priority. And I would say that not just national, but also remember that regional. I mean, I see the work that SATA is doing. This is fantastic, trying to set policy, to have policy alignment, investment incentives, and performance benchmarking. This is the global index ranking for September, by the way, and it's just a snippet of it. I do want to talk about the work that we're doing with NCC. About a year ago, we'd engaged with the Nigeria Communication Agency, and they went through a deliberation of looking at tools and data and whatnot, and eventually we partnered with them. You have here a website that is available to everyone. I highly encourage you to click on it, and it is powered by Ookla data. And it provides a tool for the NCC to have a open, transparent conversation with its operators, and you can actually click. It's interactive, so if you go on it, you can click at the operator, you can click what technology you want to look at, you can go down into the detail to try to see where the gap is, where the issues are, and so that has been an incredibly powerful and wonderfully productive tool that we have used. So in the last slide, I think that I have to share with you is this sort of, I want to say that it's a shared responsibility. We have to plan, upgrade, verify, scale, and repeat. And this whole tool that we provide gives a way of planning. What you saw earlier could be a planning and verification and scaling tool. Here you will see the before and after. I think it's Botswana between June 24 and 25. You're able to see the download, upload, and latency maps before and after every investment. And that's a wonderful tool. So I think these are some of the references that I put in there that were mentioned earlier today, and I think some of you also have them in hard copy. They're wonderful references. Once again, thank you, Openserve. Thank you, Huawei and Gamtel for inviting us and having me be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nasr. That was incredible. Now, next, let's welcome Moremi Marwa, Director General of TTCL, to share his speech. Another round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let me stand on the existing protocol and thank WBBA for inviting us to share our experience as a country on FBB. So, a bit of context. Tanzania, let me go back. We are a country of 67 million people, household around 12 million, and our size as a country relatively big. And in terms of, again, the context, we are between the Vision 2050 and our National Digital Economy Strategy. We as an entity providing the national backbone, but also going to the last mile, we are being provided with an opportunity to be an enabler of the digital economy, and the intent for the nation is to have 100% e-government by 2029, and that 90% of our new broadband infrastructure that is being built is embedded within the overall infrastructure for the country, so that we don't go into the lack of efficiency. Okay, so we are starting from the low level, 10% of the connectivity on FBB. Our intent is to go to the 2.5 million, which is affordable household, within our 12 million household. So that says that there's a significant opportunity for everyone in FTTH, FTTB, cable broadband, etc. We said we intend to cover the whole country, which we have done in terms of NICTBB, including going to Mount Kilimanjaro, which is close to 6,000 meter, and we are there on top of Africa since December 2022. So as much as we are trying to reach everyone, but at least for the climbers to the top highest point in Africa, they can experience their FTTH experience. So as you can see, we are We have a meshed network in terms of NICTBB to ensure there's connectivity, redundancy, resilience, scalability, but also the ability to balance the load, actually giving us the capability to power not only Tanzania, but also a big chunk of our neighbors, which are landlocked countries. So connecting them to the subsea cables on the east there. So we have 3 subsea cables, but we have connected to the 11 subsea cables through terrestrial link to Mombasa, again strengthening our resilience and connectivity. So we have covered the whole country. In Tanzania, we call them regions. In here, I think they call them provinces. So, and 6 countries which are our neighbors. Kenya, where we have 3 POPs, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Zambia, Malawi, we have a POP going to Mozambique, and now we are connecting to DRC through Lake Tanganyika, and that work is ongoing. Okay, so in terms of the way forward, as I said, in terms of the national backbone broadband, we are all over the country, but also towards our neighbors. But then what is before us is the last mile, which we have just started laying out in the past 2 years. And our plan is to hit 100 million FTTH coverage by 2028. And so we collaborate with our key partners, collaborators, and enablers to make sure that in this space of last mile, but also metro, everyone is around. So in terms of the backbone, it's managed and owned and operated by TTCL. But for the metro and last mile, everyone is invited to participate. And we have 4 MNOs and a couple of internet providers who also participate in the space. But for us, this is our bold statement, making sure that we hit that connectivity to the business, to the government, to the home by 2028. So how the future looks like in terms of long term, as I said earlier, we have the Vision 2050, which is a roadmap for the nation in the next 25 years. And one of the key pillars is the digital economy, and we as an entity within the space of telecom, we have to be a key enabler through basically the fiber backbone, so connecting to technologies such as 5G, the FTTH, as I said, AI, the Internet of Things, and again, hitting 100 million homes and reaching the fiber base of 80,000 kilometers by that time. So this is to end. This is to also invite you to collaborate, partner, and play as an supplementary enabler in terms of making sure that within the Tanzanians' FBB journey towards that digitalization of our economy, then together we can be able to push the country towards that level. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Marwa. I must tell you, this is the very first Congress that I've hosted where everyone has stuck to the times that they've been allocated and actually even beat the times they've been given. So well done to everybody. Let's see how we can continue from here. We are now going to jump into our panel discussion to discuss the industry's hot topics. We are going to welcome to the stage Mr. Martin Creaner. He will take on the role as moderator of this discussion, and he will be joined by the following panelists. Mr. Motibi Ramusi, Chairperson of Independent Communications Authority of South Africa. Mr. Charles Hinga Mwaura, Principal Secretary, State Department for Housing and Urban Development, Kenya. Mr. Salbi Kuzwayo, Chairman of Southern African Telecommunications Association, and Mr. Londa Sitole, Senior Transactor, Debt Financing Solutions, TMT of RMB Bank. We are going to ask that they all make their way to the stage so that we can start getting ready for this panel discussion. Let's give them a round of applause, please. See, afternoon of old friends and new friends all coming together. As we said, Mr. Martin Creaner will lead the conversation this afternoon. And I'm sure if you have any questions afterwards, everyone will still be around. Martin, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And it's been a fascinating afternoon so far with all of the various ideas and thoughts and advancements that we've seen today. What we'd like to do now, though, is maybe get a little bit below the surface with a number of the key experts that we have now on the panel. In the interest of time, and I know we've only got about 30 minutes, 25 minutes or so for a panel, maybe Selby, could I kick off with you with a question? Because you've kind of got a foot in lots of different camps. You know, you're obviously the chair with SATA. You're part of Openserve, which is a board member of the WBBA. So how do you see what can we do as, you know, a combination of SATA, WBBA, Openserve in order to improve connectivity and try and close the digital gap that Juanita was talking about?
Good afternoon. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Look, I think what is key is that we're dealing with a moving target. I think Juanita did touch on that. And we also need to adapt to the situations we're dealing with. But this is why we're investing on the networks. Like, that's why it's important to collaborate with other associations. And as part of, we're part of the Digital Council, so that we can quickly learn from each other as to how we're gonna move to close the gap. Some of the challenges would be, you know, everybody looks and say, why don't they close this? You know, it's a gap known, but it's not easy. We are from different organizations, profit organizations, so when there's an investment, there's an expected return. You may know there's a gap somewhere. By the time you plan, you find that another competitor has jumped onto it. And that's why you end up with some areas with overbuild. So we need to find ways of working around it so that we can be efficient. That's how we're going to close the gap. You know, somehow we need to work together without crossing the lines of a competitive, unnecessary collaborations there, because there is competitive challenges that if people who are supposed to compete come together and decide certain issues, they cross some lines in this country. Yeah. So that's the bottom line here, that we have to adjust, chase these targets within the laws. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really interesting, and brings me maybe directly to the role of ICASA in this, Mr. Amusi. I've just come back from, we held an event in Brazil about a month ago, and one of the regulation approach in Brazil back in, you know, maybe a decade ago was a lot of liberalization. They've ended up with something like over 20,000 ISPs in the country, and it's become a chaotic situation. So you've kind of got the hardest job in the world in this, which is balancing everything in terms of affordability for consumers, competition, but also treating connectivity like a strategic asset for the nation. So can you give some thoughts in terms of how do you strike that balance on behalf of the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity. I see it's all male here. Hopefully, hopefully we'll bring the gender next time. So that's part of balancing, actually, just to make sure that it's an inclusive participation. But thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, I think from our side, obviously, the first thing is issues around affordability. Because if you really want to see how regulation balance for economic transformation and development, we've been hearing a lot about inclusivity. Now, I'll be talking as a regulator because it becomes important that as and when you reflect about regulations, it's how then do you develop collaboration, partnerships, because there's no way that you can bring everyone into an inclusive environment or inclusive infrastructure if you don't have OEMs in the room, academia, civil society. So in this country, amongst many other things, it's around including those that are consumers. So then we talk about affordability. Because once you can afford services, then you advance the issue of competition. Now, you spoke about issues of inclusivity of SMMEs. I can say that in our country, the good thing is our rules are very clear, very firm when it comes to transformation. And we believe that the only way that you can attract investors so that there's value for those that are investing in business is to be firm in terms of your decision making as well. So if you reflect those three components, this is how in this country we are doing things with those that we license in all the sectors that we regulate: telecommunication, broadcasting, and postal sector. Yeah.
I mean, very, very good. I mean, as you can tell from my gray hair, I've been around in this industry for a very, very long time. And I remember back in 1986, the deregulation in the US and in the UK and so on. And the focus of regulation was about driving competition in, where there was a big imbalance. And in the conversations I'm having now, 40 years later in Europe, there's still a focus on driving competition, but increasingly I'm picking up that, and you'll see it from within Europe, the level of increasing focus on communication as a national asset, and how do we protect and grow that national asset? And is that something you think you talk about as well, or is it still a lot about driving better competition for the consumers?
Well, I think if you had, my emphasis is affordability, because ultimately when you embrace competition, amongst other things, apart from innovation, is to give the very same citizens at least a menu where people can then choose services that they want, because the more you have, at least it brings everyone into the mainstream.
Yes.
So as a country, we've seen it that it's important that as part of inviting investors into South Africa, question is transformation by nature. It encourages those that are coming from outside, firstly, to acknowledge local rules and regulations, adaptations to the local environment, and most importantly, by bringing competition, it's how you advance job creation. And the issue of job creation, it's about feeding people as well, because when we talk about poverty, it's along those lines. So in our value chain, even as a regulator, we see ourselves being one of the main contributors towards transforming families. Because, as you know, I mean, you spoke about in other jurisdictions, regulators are seen to be barriers in terms of transfer. But in South Africa, we're seeing ourselves as an enabler for development. So if you talk competition, it's about giving many other people an opportunity to be known, consumers to be able to choose, because our constitution, as we have it right now, it's one of the thrusts that we use to guide even our work, because everyone has got a basic right to have access to telecommunication, to broadcasting and postal services. So we use certain instruments to balance even our work when it comes to issues around competition and transformation.
Fabulous. And I mean, I think I'd buy into that vision entirely. You mentioned investment and making it attractive for investment. So maybe I could go to RMB Bank, Mr. Lunda. I suppose, in short, how attractive is investment at the moment in this market?
Okay, I think it's working now. Look, I think from an investment perspective, digital infrastructure is probably one of the most defensive industries you can come across. I mean, I think we've seen how it has performed during difficult macro environments. We've seen how it's performed during pandemics and during political uncertainty. The one thing you will always have is access to a cell phone and being able to communicate with loved ones or with colleagues. So I think the stability of the industry is quite key. And then you go into the nuances of each of the different verticals within the industry. So if, for example, you take data centers or towers, those are underpinned by a long-term offtake agreements by your tier one MNOs, and as bankers and as equity investors, we're able to take a view on those long-term contracts. If you look at data centers, those are dollarized contracts, also long-term offtake agreements from tier one players in the market. And again, investment is happy to flow into that ecosystem because there's strong underpin by strong long-term investment, long-term contracts, and we can take a view on that. So I think from a telecommunications perspective, investment remains strong. I mean, we've seen in the last, call it 5 years, the regional players, the likes of Vodacom, MTN, Airtel, etc., have spent about $28 billion in funding connectivity, and a big chunk of that is financed by your commercial banks and your development finance institutions, and they're anticipated to spend another $68 or $62 billion to 2030. Again, that is going to partly be financed by the operators, but a lot of the funding is going to come from the banking sector as well. So it remains quite attractive. And I mean, over time, I think banks, including RMB, have taken the position that someone said it earlier, no one must get left behind. And connectivity is a basic human right. So I think we certainly are playing quite an active role in not just funding your tier one, call it, operators. Those will always have access to capital, but what we are seeing is the emergence of quality or tier two, what we call emerging infracos and MNOs that are serving or that are trying to bridge that digital divide, and certainly going into areas where maybe a return on investment doesn't make sense for a tier one, but they're able to go into those rural and underserved communities.
Very, very good. And do you find that, I mean, obviously, investment in connectivity and investment in cloud and investment in AI, they kind of go hand in hand. Do you find that you're matching or aligning investments in connectivity with similar investments that are going on in data center build out and so on? Do you find there's a linkage between those investment decisions?
Not yet. I don't think we've, certainly from an African perspective, we haven't gotten to that level of sophistication, but it is something that, we are looking at. So if, for example, if you take undersea cables, it's something that we quite haven't gotten our heads around, because as banks, the one thing we lack is security. But how do I take security on a cable that's sitting in the ocean and I don't know where it's drifting at any point in time? So I think there's still that gap where we're happy and we're comfortable to fund rather a tower going up, or a data center going up, because I can see the physical asset, I can see the infrastructure, but the other elements of terrestrial fiber, of undersea cables become difficult because You know, again, I can't see the cables under the ocean. How do I take security, and where do I take security of a cable that moves between 5 to 10 countries?
Very good. And finally, Mr. Mwara, from a Kenya point of view, from an urban development and urban planning point of view, which is you know, the other side of this investment challenge, what do you see makes a good investment case, you know, to accelerate fiber coverage in urban development?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. I'm an investment banker by profession, so I understand the bankability language. And so a few years ago, I spent 20 years here in South Africa, and so about 8 years ago, when my president asked me to go back home, and I was given this responsibility of putting up 200,000 homes a year, the first thing that we had to do was to really understand what are we solving for. If I take you one step back, if you look at the demographics of the urban dwellers, which is largely what we are trying to sort out, in that part of our country, and I dare say that the urban dweller in Kenya is probably the most marginalized person. Very controversial, but it is very, very marginalized. And I say this because, one, we have a very unequal society where a huge percentage of our population earns very little money. Then number two, we have the odious a situation where the land is very expensive. In fact, there's a Center for Affordable Housing in Africa, which is based here in Cape Town, that has done a study across various capitals in Africa and shows that Nairobi has the most expensive land in the continent. And so when you put all those things into context, then you realize that where you have got very low wages and very high cost of land, what tends to happen is that we tend to push people out of the urban core. And as you do that, we are forcing them to go to the peri-urban. But then, on the other hand, we don't have a reliable public transport system. So eventually, what they do is that they end up forming informal settlements, or what you call slums. And now, when you look at the slums and life in the slums, these are not lazy people. These are people who wake up perhaps even earlier than we do, and they have to go and make a living and eat what they make that day. So this urban dweller suffers what we call the penalty of poverty. You're poor, and life decides to penalize you more because, for example, the services that are being provided in the informal settlements are not provided by government. So you find that the water is being provided by what you call water cartels or water barons, electricity, and they pay 172% more for basic utilities. So you're poor, and your access to basic services is already very high. And so we came up with a program of putting together these housing nodes. And we're very lucky because it's almost like you've been given an exam. And you've been asked, set this exam for yourself, sit and mark it for yourself. If you fail, then really nobody can help you. And what that has done is that it has allowed us to reimagine what kind of new urban settlements we have. And now we are running the biggest housing scheme in the Southern Hemisphere, where we are putting 200,000 units a year. I have $4 billion worth of investment that already signed. And therefore, what it has done, it has given us an opportunity to perhaps the things that we talk about in abstract, like broadband, it has become a reality because I think I will have achieved my objective by just putting up houses. But the question is, 10, 15 years from now, people will be looking back and saying, what were you thinking? Because we're in the digital age. So we have to build these homes. You still have to bring in all these services, and you still have to make it affordable. And that is what we are doing. We're doing it together with our partners. Huawei, working with Safaricom and other telcos, are providing the core of the infrastructure. And then we are making sure that the person that is at the lowest level gets a basic minimum service. As government as well, we are leveraging some of our sunk cost. For example, we are giving access to power poles so that you can strut the fiber cables, way leaves, and so on and so forth as part of our contribution. And then these new homes that we are putting, the way we make sure that there is electricity cables and there is water pipes, we're also making sure that in the bill of quantities, that fiber connectivity is actually ingrained in our design philosophy. So thereafter, we open up the layer and people can compete for services.
That's hugely inspirational, really. I mean, the fact that fiber is one of your key, your key red lines as you're building out, along with running in the water utilities and electricity and so on. Do you have any sort of maybe recommendations or thoughts about? I mean, I can imagine running in water and sand, clean services and electricity is hugely difficult. Is running in the fiber hugely difficult, and or is it easier when you're running in these other services to just add fiber?
I guess the biggest cost in the built environment is opening up the ground. You see, so once you open up the ground, you might as well just layer as much of the services that you want. So we're saying that once you open the service, make sure that you put in all the ducts that you need, whether they're needed now or they're going to be needed in the future. The cost of fiber is negligible vis-a-vis the cost of the development that you're doing. So put it out there, and then leverage large economies of scale. I mean, you're talking about a minimum of 1,000 to 2,000 units in one place. Surely, the commercial people should be able to figure out how to make money out of that.
Excellent. I can see we're being told on the screen there we've only got a minute left. But could I ask for maybe a final thought from each of our panelists in terms of how do you view the outlook over the coming decade for Africa in broadband investment? Maybe Selby, just starting with you. Are you positive? Are you optimistic?
Definitely positive. We're making do with what we have, and I think listening to what Kenya is doing, I'm sure our government can also take a leaf out of that, because it's some of the challenges that are stopping us from making these leaps forward, the way leaps. We've got a lot of municipalities around. They all make their own rules. That's what also complicates the situation of rolling out infrastructure. Because what rules apply to this municipality does not apply to the next. And the delays and all sorts of issues that create problems when you have to do that business case and make sure that you deliver the services so that people can be connected and then everybody can benefit out of it. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Ramusi?
Yeah, thanks. I think for me, we need to make sure that we've got a good educational program. Because the future, if you need consumers to appreciate why you connect them to start with, I see that uptake happening. And I think as regulators, that's what we're advocating, to say, educate those that need to consume. And secondly, it's the issue of cost. Because if we're really looking at uptake, it's how transformational are you in terms of technology provision? Is it local? Who's involved? So as long as it's an inclusive build-up, inclusive participation of youth, women, persons with disability, then there's a belief that the future, it's inclusive. And that's the outlook that I see for the next 10, 20 years.
I'm glad you mentioned education, because it's something that we maybe haven't touched on as much this afternoon, but hugely important. Mr. Lunda?
I think I'm positive as well. Look, I think if you look at just the amount of capital that's involved to fund digitization and to fund digital infrastructure and to fund all of the developments that are currently taking place in the market, it's enormous, right? Across not just commercial banks, but across the capital structure. So equity providers in the form of financial sponsors. You've got DFIs who have patient capital to deploy in the industry. You've also got commercial banks who can augment these sources of capital. So I remain positive. I think there are quite a few things that we need as a continent to fix, such as the regulatory framework and standardize, to make the investment easier and to make the players or give them the ability to be able to operate and to accelerate the investment and the growth in the continent.
Excellent. And maybe the final word, Mr. Marwa.
Yeah, I think, as I've just said, it is about walking the talk. We can attend conferences after conferences and we talk about the same thing. But I think really when the rubber meets the road is how to get it done. And we're lucky that we have a program that we have looked for internal resources and funded. And the outlook looks very positive. We have a lot of partners that are coming on board. And as I said, you're looking at the lowest, someone who lives in a slum, they live on almost $5 or so a day. This is the person that you are addressing, and yet they probably need these services more. If you look at what we've done in the recent past, we have digitized over 15,000 services, government services in Kenya. So when you digitize 15,000 services but you still don't have access, then it's a paradox. So the future looks good. We're walking the talk, and we are very sure that by taking this leap of faith, and by also we have changed our building code now in Kenya. We've changed the building code, and it is now a requirement that connectivity is no longer a nice to have, it is a must have. And we are strengthening our sub-nationals so that when it comes now to building approvals, don't approve any building where you don't have the minimum infrastructure that is being put in. And so I believe that once you employ those type of tools and instruments, the rest, the market will sort out for itself. It's large economies of scale. It is really a volume play rather than a margin play. And I think that is really what the difference is going to be. Thank you.
That's fabulous. A great way to finish. I'd like you all to give a round of applause to that excellent panel. Really inspirational, and let's all walk the talk now rather than just talk the talk. Thank you very much.
That was incredible. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Motibi Ramusi, Mr. Charles Hinga Muaura, Mr. Salvi Kuzwayo, and Mr. Londa Sitole, telling us that we definitely still have a way to go, but feeling very positive about what's been happening thus far. And I think we all are feeling that as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that has been a very insightful discussion, but we also know the broadband connectivity in Africa keeps growing. Now, today, the WBBA will also present the Gigacity certification and special contribution to some of the leading organizations, operators, and persons who contribute a lot to Africa's gigabit broadband development. Mr. Martin Creaner, I invite you to take to the stage once again, please. He will present these awards.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for all of your patience to stay with us through a long afternoon, a fascinating afternoon, I think. But as we heard there, we have some awards. One important part of the WBBA that we mentioned over earlier on today was our Gigacities certification. And this is cities that are making a tangible progress in providing gigabit connectivity to the metropolitan area. And that ranges from cities that have made enormous leaps. I think we heard in the UAE was a comment there 20 minutes ago, where the UAE has the fastest speeds in the world, and cities like Dubai are absolute gigacities, or Shanghai. But there's many other cities across the world of different sizes who are on that journey. And today we would like to recognize some of the great progress being made here in Africa. So first up, I would like to talk about Openserve's contribution in Johannesburg, in South Africa, and really looking at what Openserve has achieved in terms of best fiber broadband experience, and also ranked #1 in fixed broadband quality of service across South Africa. So could we put our hands together and congratulate Openserve on becoming a Gigacity champion? Our second award just now will be for TTCL Tanzania for Dar es Salaam, and in particular for transforming all of the copper networks to gigabit-ready networks and fast fiber coverage. We heard some of that today, up to 40% coverage over the last 3 years, which is a hugely rapid piece of work and initiative. So can you put your hands together and applaud TTCL for Dar es Salaam? Our third award is for the city of Nairobi in Kenya, and in particular for Safaricom in Kenya. And the work that's been going on in Nairobi in terms of accelerating gigabit development across Kenya, it has been really impressive. And so please, can I hear your applause for Safaricom Kenya as a Gigacity champion? And there's lots of work going on in Kenya, but in particular, what we just heard from our panel today, the State Department for Housing and Urban Development in Kenya, particularly in Nairobi, and the boosting that all optical industry and digital economy in Kenya, and the mandatory fiber connectivity to the many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of homes that are being built. So please, can I hear your appreciation for the State Department for Housing and Urban Development in Kenya, in Nairobi. And I've got two more awards, and I will ask Dr. Sunil Piyarlall to join me on the stage here for this, because the leadership that both Openserve and Gamtel have shown us over the last really 2 or 3 years within the WBBA, driving the WBBA from a very small, excellent idea organization to a very large and successful industry organization today. The leadership that Openserve has shown, and also Gamtel, and Sunil will accept the award for both Openserve and Gamtel. They ran into the same problem that Juanita ran. They missed their flight in their travel here today, so they will be here tomorrow instead. But for the excellent work they've done in general within the WBBA, and in particular for the sponsorship and leadership to launch this excellent BDC Cape Town event in partnership with Huawei. So, Sunil, many thanks. And I think it just falls to me now to bring the event to a close. I think everyone will agree it has been an excellent event, some really knowledgeable, important and insightful speakers, both from South Africa, from across the continent and from further afield. We've had some fabulous presentations. I thank you all for sticking with us right throughout the afternoon. And as I mentioned in our opening address, the plan is that we will be making this an annual event, ideally here at AfricaCom or maybe also elsewhere in the continent. The African continent's become hugely important to the WBBA, and you will be seeing a lot more of the WBBA. If your company is not a member of the WBBA, I encourage you to reach out and join. It's a very straightforward process, and there's a huge value to be had, and the more voices we get into the conversation, the better we can influence the progress of broadband across this continent over the coming decade. So with that, many thanks for everybody's attention, and I wish you all a successful week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I can only echo what Martin